My name is Jill Norcross. I'm with the Northern Virginia Affordable Housing Alliance. Here with my colleague Hannah Matuda, our Deputy Director, and other members of the Navajo team are on as well from our local alliances. We're thrilled to have our virtual bus tour. I think we've done it every August for the last few years because we figure it is summer and it's really nice to take an opportunity to celebrate all of our hard work as advocates, developers, partners, other stakeholders to celebrate actually the opening of affordable housing. I think this hopefully gives you a good look on the amazing quality of construction and amenities that our affordable housing that's being produced these days represents. So we really are excited to share with you and then have the developers and the partners here to kind of talk about their experience with building the affordable housing. It's not easy, as you know, and each of these projects have their own challenges. I'm sure you'll hear about them, but the fact is that there are people now living in these homeowner and rental opportunities. So these represent diversity of housing, affordable housing forms and partnerships. First, we're going to hear from Loudoun Habitat for Humanity on their Prince Street duplex, which is really an innovation in homeownership in both construction and their permanent affordability through their community land trust model. Second, we're going to move to Fairfax for the One Fairfax project by SCG Development that represents innovation in public housing redevelopment and partnerships with George Mason University for seniors, families, and students. And then finally, we'll travel into Arlington County for Unity Homes, which was a project opened by TrueGround and Central United Methodist Church, which represented innovation and commitment in bringing transit-oriented, faith-based, affordable housing development that continues to serve the church's mission in that community. So again, thrilled to have you, and I will go ahead and turn it over to Judy Singer and Amanda Bolig from Loudoun Habitat. Thank you.
Thanks, Jill. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen for Judy so we can go ahead and get started.
And hello, everybody. We're glad to be here. And again, Jill, thanks to you, Hannah, and the whole Navajo team for inviting us to share about this project. We're excited to be able to present this to you. Just a little background. This project, it marks our affiliates' 68th and 69th homes dedicated here in Loudoun County. This particular project, which is a duplex, it's located on Prince Street in Leesburg. Okay. Just wanted to give you a little background for those who may not know. We are an affiliate of Habitat for Humanity International, a nonprofit organization serving 70 countries around the world. But here at the local level, we've been serving Loudoun County residents since 1993. And we do this through our affordable home ownership opportunities and the ability to preserve and maintain homes for existing homeowners. So that's sort of the critical home repair component that we also offer. And by providing financial literacy courses to help prepare future homeowners here in Loudoun County. So today we're going to share with you our most recent success story through our home ownership program. And first, Amanda's going to share a little bit more about the families we serve.
Thank you, Judy. Yeah, so here at Loudoun Habitat for Humanity, we have partnered now with, as Judy mentioned, 69 families in Loudoun County. And our partner families that we work with are Loudoun County Public School employees. They work for Loudoun County government. They may be in the retail or service industry. Many of our families are employed at Dulles Airport. They're healthcare workers, and they cross so many other sectors across Loudoun County. And so really, these families are the fabric of our community, and we are excited to be able to provide them with opportunities to not just work here, but live and be part of the community in which they're already established and working in. Each of our families in our program has to meet several qualifications in order to purchase their home from Habitat. So that's really kind of the key here that many people don't realize is that we are providing a hand up and not a hand out. So our families do purchase the homes, they are homeowners, and they have an affordable mortgage that we help to subsidize as necessary. Each of our families has a need for decent and affordable housing. What we see here in Loudoun County is a lot of families living in overcrowded situations. Many times families are not having the appropriate spaces for each member of the family to have a bed. Many times we see parents and children sharing beds, or even parents living in, the living room on a couch so that the child can have a room. Each of our families is a willing partner in our program, meaning that they contribute sweat equity hours, or we call volunteer hours, to the mission of Habitat and to prepare themselves to be a successful homeowner. They're required to complete 12 months of homebuyers education taught through our Tools for Life Learning Center, and they actually help to build their own homes, which is really exciting because then they also know how to maintain what they've helped to build. Each family has the ability to pay for that home, so they are qualified on their finances for an affordable mortgage. And then our families are residents of Loudoun County, so we are actually taking our donor dollars and investing them right into the community and the families that are already residents here as well. So with that, we're now going to dive into the actual project that we just recently completed, and you'll also get to see a little bit of the family stories a little later on. But I'm going to start with the beginning of the project, which took place in April of 2022, and we actually purchased a vacant lot in Leesburg, just minutes away from downtown and really convenient shopping, which was an ideal piece of land for our program and the families that we serve. It was zoned R6 moderate density residential, and so we really wanted to capitalize on this lot and the density that was allowed here and serve more than one family. So we took a very narrow lot, and as you'll see, we developed it to serve two families instead of just one unit. I'm going to show a little clip here for you so you can actually kind of see where we are located and what the property looked like when we first purchased it. Okay, so you can see super skinny, narrow lot, but located in a really great area of Leesburg. So fast forward a little bit to September of 2023, we welcomed our first corporate partner, which is a really part of how we operate our program by using partnerships. And so our first corporate partner came in, helped us clear some of the existing structures and clean up the lot a little bit for our groundbreaking ceremony that took place in 2023. And at that same time as, groundbreaking's happening, lots being cleared, our staff and our board members are working with both the town of Leesburg and Loudoun County government to get those permits started as well. So let's take a look at the lot as it was getting ready to be cleared and then the groundbreaking. Okay, so moving on from 2023, like I mentioned, we're working on permitting, and actually the construction of the house began as well. We decided to use a 1/1 model in order to, like I mentioned, get two families on this one lot. We used modular construction in order to do this, and we ended up developing and designing about a 2,696 square foot building, so about 1,300 square feet per unit. They are 3-bed and 2-bath units. They were built in about 2 months. Again, in the factory using modular construction, that process is sped up. We don't have any of those delays due to weather and things like that. They were delivered in 4 separate pieces, 4 modules, and then they were set using a crane in less than 48 hours, which is pretty impressive when we think about how long it takes to build things in the traditional model. So I'm going to advance to the next slide, and you're actually going to be able to get to see some footage of the units being built in the factory. And then what you're going to see is a time lapse of the modules being placed on the foundation in less than a 24-hour span. I'm going to pass it over to Judy now. She's going to talk a little bit about the partners and the role that they played in actually helping to then finish the units after they were set by the crane.
Sure. Thanks, Amanda. So partnerships really are at the heart of what we do. And we, have local community members that are partners. They work alongside Habitat and our families. And again, we give a hand up, not a handout, and they help with building or improving this place that they can call home. Our Habitat homeowners are also partners in that they help build their own homes alongside the volunteers, and they do pay an affordable mortgage, as Amanda mentioned that earlier. Other partners include financial supporters, volunteers, and other advocates that just provide the necessary voices that support affordable housing initiatives. And this project alone, our two partner families invested over 500 hours of sweat equity to prepare themselves for home ownership. We had over 25 community sponsors that invested almost $1 million through grants, in-kind donations, and financial contributions. I think that number is actually 925,000 roughly. And this included our 5 corporate team build partners that not only did provide financial contributions, but they also sent teams of volunteers. And that brought us to 887 volunteer hours that were invested into this property. And Amanda will go ahead and share another quick video showing our partners in action working to finish up these homes. Great. You saw that we had to throw in that picture of Jill and the Navajo folks that came out for a tour and got to sign one of the beams that was inside that house. Um, so as you all know, the need for affordable housing is critical, and the impact of our habitat model can be seen in neighborhoods throughout the United States, with other active affiliates around the country. With the investment in their home buyers improve their financial standing and provide stability for their families. Children perform better in schools, families feel safer, and neighborhoods improve. The affordable mortgage of a Habitat house also promotes financial freedom and stability, and communities that support more families in building better futures represent a really strong alliance. And finally, the lasting investment in these homes and the families they'll carry forward to future generations. This particular project was done through a partnership with the Virginia Statewide Community Land Trust. And so the land donation covenants really ensure that these two homes remain affordable. And then we've got, I guess, one more quick video, and this is just really from the dedication ceremony itself.
I want to welcome the families and say congratulations. You're now in Leesburg. And we are very excited you're here. I want to thank Habitat for doing this, for putting this all together, and all of the people that donated their time and their energy and their efforts to make this happen. This is a wonderful opportunity for all of you.
So today, as we stand before our new home, we are filled with gratitude and excitement. So this house is more than just walls and roof. And it's a place where we will build memories, share laughter, and create a future together.
All my life, we moved from one basement to the other, and from one apartment to another, changing from one school to another. With tears in my kids' eyes, they would always ask me one question: can we not move anymore? It's always like an impossible dream to call a place your home. And if it wasn't for Habitat for Humanity, it wouldn't be possible to call this place our house.
Okay, this is the fun part. The families are going to cut the ribbons to their homes. 3, 2, 1.
All right. If you've ever been to a Habitat dedication ceremony, it's really, really, really moving. So it's exciting to see these families when they get their keys handed over to them. Finally, just a real quick look, our next project, which we're really, really excited about, and this is really expanding our impact in Loudoun County. We're going to be developing 12 townhomes in the village of Clear Springs, and this is part of a large neighborhood along Evergreen Mill Road between Heritage High School and Shreve Mill Road. This project includes the USTA tennis complex, over 1,000 residential units, and a neighborhood park. And our 12 Habitat homes will be scattered throughout 3 phases of the development and are planned to serve families up to 60% of the area median income, which as of April 2025, 60% for a family of 4 in Loudoun County is $98,340. And again, those numbers are updated annually by HUD, but that's kind of our guideline for this project. And that's it. So thank you all.
Amazing. Thank you, Amanda and Judy. It was really fun to have the videos to see the progress of the homes. And of course, our Navajo team had a great outing visiting the finished project. So thanks for hosting us then too. If you have any questions for Loudoun Habitat, please put them in the chat. We'll answer all the questions together after all the presentations, but really appreciate the innovation in the modular design and the community land trust. I know there's a lot more to learn about that. So thank you. We are going to travel from Leesburg over to Fairfax County, one university right adjacent to George Mason University. And I want to introduce Steve Wilson with SCG Development. Steve, thank you so much for being here. This project was incredibly complex, I believe, and exciting and innovative in itself. So we really look forward to learning more about One University, which just opened within the past 12 months, I think. So
Yes.
Yep. So thank you. We'll just tee up your slides. Great.
Well, great, everybody. Thanks for allowing me to participate. It's good to be with everybody this afternoon. I'm going to give a brief overview of our development called One University. Go to the next slide. A little bit of background on this one. Back in 2016, we started coming up with the concept of redeveloping this parcel, which was owned by Fairfax County Redevelopment Housing Authority. Its prior use was 46 townhomes in a functionally obsolescent office building that they used for storage and occasional meetings. It's 10.8 acres, immediately adjacent to George Mason University. And we knew the university was growing quite a bit. In fact, it's fastest growing university in the state at this point. They had a dire need for on-campus housing, although they didn't really want to develop anything on campus. So we're effectively off-campus housing. But we knew the need for the housing for students was there because they were transitioning for some time from a more of a commuter school and trying to get more students there on campus full time. So we came up with a scheme to co-develop affordable housing along with student housing to check multiple boxes. We are not a student housing developer, so I was aware of a best-in-class student housing developer that we had done some deals with previously, and we jointly put together a proposal under the PPEA Act in Virginia, which many of you already are familiar with. And we submitted a proposal, I want to say like early 2017, to develop about 240 units of affordable housing and about 330 units of student housing, all on one piece of land, all on 3 separate ground leases. So we're all under a 99-year ground lease owned by Fairfax County Housing and Redevelopment Authority. As a local taxpayer, the thing I like about that is at the end of the 99th year, if not sooner, all this property is going to revert back to 100% ownership by the county, including all the vertical improvements. So I like that element of it. So we went through the PPA process. Part of that process is they make our proposal public and invite competing proposals. I believe there are several competing proposals that came in after about a year of interviewing and back and forth and negotiating. We ended up ultimately winning the proposal, which basically gave us the right to then dive headfirst into a very controversial rezoning process. We had to go through a comprehensive plan amendment and a rezoning. And to be candid with you, this was the most controversial rezoning I've ever been involved in my entire life. It was something like 30 community meetings, several planning commission, board of supervisors, of course. Ultimately, we prevailed. We did have a lot of NIMBYism on this one, and I give a lot of credit to the political leadership. Our supervisor at the time was John Cook, and he decided before this project that he was not going to seek re-election. So he went all in on this one, and I have no doubt that if he didn't provide the leadership that we needed to keep this on track, we would have ended up with a very, very much different development plan, include most notably a lot lower density. So I think, I'm very appreciative of his efforts to get us through that. We ultimately got through all that. We secured our tax credits from the state. So this is a 9-4 twin deal. The student housing was all privately financed. And one of the requirements of the transaction was that they all closed to get together, meaning like within the same time frame and not the same year. I'm talking about like the same week. And that was very intentional on the part of FCRHA. There had been a number of very high profile housing authority redevelopments that have occurred throughout the country and they go ahead and tear down the building, but they don't successfully get the replacement housing built, or it takes 7 years to get it rebuilt. So we had to get all this very tightly choreographed between land use, permits, financing, the student housing deal, their timeframes, their financing. They had to be open in August in order to, preferably July, in order to hit their leasing season. And then we had this added feature of it all has to close together. So we didn't miss a beat. And so several years later, ultimately in 2021, December 21st, we closed on the deal. Both affordable deals closed. And then shortly after that, the student housing deal closed. So if you go to the next slide, you can see the location. So I think everybody is more or less local. So you can go to the next slide. A little bit about the location. You can see it's right across the street from the field house. Literally the northern property boundary that you see there is the city of Fairfax. So that's the line of demarcation. We're in Fairfax County. You can see the proximity to the university. And then ultimately, you can see on the right-hand side, the student housing development is up on the right side and the affordable housing is on the left side. On the left side, far left, you'll see the family development, 120 units. One thing interesting about that is that property, the entire property went through the RAD process before we submitted the PPA, or about the time we submitted the PPA. And that was HUD's kind of opportunity for public housing authorities to convert their public housing stock into long-term Section 8 rental contracts, which is a much more stable form of subsidy. So they had just gone through the RAD process, and here we are. And the presumption under that was we're putting this property to bed for a long term, until we showed up with this great idea to redevelop the entire thing. Everybody loved it. The county loved it. It was clearly a conversation with HUD, essentially saying, hey, even though we just did this, we actually now want to do this, which is quintuple the density of the affordable housing and add some student housing to benefit the broader community. FCRHA had to take the lead in getting HUD to approve and actually create the documentation to permit this, because it never happened before. And they got that done. And then, like I said, on December 21st, we successfully closed. You go to the next slide. A little bit of detail on the site, 10.6 acres. I already explained it was 46 units of functionally obsolete housing, adjacency to the campus. We developed with 120 family units, 120 senior units. The other interesting thing too is we, when county owns property, right, they don't pay any real estate taxes. So we basically took a 10.6 acre property that generated no real estate tax revenue, and once complete, it's going to generate over $1.5 million of annual real estate taxes. Probably more than that, actually, just through the passage of time. But very, very interesting change. Another thing that I like a lot from a taxpayer perspective. The other thing that's really kind of my personal favorite about this transaction, go to the next slide, is I call this internally financed. And it's kind of like the gold standard of how to do housing in my mind. And I say that within the boundaries of the site, we're able to fully finance this transaction. So in other words, our two affordable properties were on 99-year ground leases. It cost us like $10 for 99 years. Okay. The student housing piece, because that's a market rate use, they can generate a $700,000 to $800,000 a year ground lease fee, not subordinated. So the county, Fairfax County Real Housing Authority, is collecting this multi-$100,000 ground lease payment every year, escalating for 99 years. So now if you think about, we got $6.5 million of blueprint funds from the county. you can kind of do the math and you can see within a relatively short span of time, the county has recouped their investment on the blueprint funds through the receipt of the ground lease payments. And in a matter of years, and again, might take 10 years, but in the grand scheme of the life cycle of real estate, that's a very short period of time. And now then it'll just start generating cash flow for the FCRHA to redeploy and do other things with. And the county then will also enjoy the benefits of the additional real estate taxes, which of course will come with additional services as a result of all the people living here and students in school and so on and so forth. So that's kind of what I call the gold standard of affordable housing finance. Of course, with the family and senior deals, we have shuttle services a couple times a week, taking all the residents to the local shopping centers and services. So all that is working really well. If you go to the next slide. A little bit about the time frame. Every time I look at this, I try to forget about it because it's the length of time it took. And when I say we were pedal to the metal from day one, it was pedal to the metal from day one. We didn't miss a step, but it still took this length of time to get this complicated deal closed. So you can see the little indicator when we hit initial closing. It took us 2 years to build. We closed, of course, right in the middle of COVID, which was joyous. But we had a massive amount of overhead investment, as well as you're talking about $7 million of pre-development capital in the deal. And obviously delaying and trying to reconfigure and hope things get better is really not a good choice when you're faced with these kinds of things, once you look at all the factors involved in delays. So we went ahead and closed. We had a GMP, gross maximum price contract, quote unquote, but we really didn't because there was a lot of exclusions to that. Lumber, wood, materials, labor, virtually everything was almost an allowance. And so we had to navigate through that. We had probably within the first 90 days, 120 days, about $3 million worth of change orders that hit us. And a lot of that was lumber. Again, we were in a very tight market. COVID, the lumber price was spiking. We had to kind of work our way through all that, which we eventually did and then completed in early 24 and started the lease up and converted out of our loans in 24, 25. We've still got a few units to lease on the senior side, but the family side is fully leased. And as far as I know, everything's going great on the ground operationally. The tenants are enjoying the buildings. Go to the next slide. A little bit about the finished product. You can't see it here, but the entire development on the affordable side sits on a underground parking garage, just one level underground, and it's partially underground. So almost if you can envision like a rectangular tape tray, we have two buildings sitting on top of it. That was a cost that we would prefer to have avoided, but it was also the cost of getting the rezoning done with the density that we're all going for. So typically in something like this, you would always do above grade structured parking to reduce cost. In this case, we couldn't do that. So we ran it underground. Again, one story, so it's not, there's a lot more than above grade structured parking, but not horrendously expensive. All the buildings are 4 stories. You have all the modern amenities in there, exercise facilities, meeting space, 9-foot ceilings, air conditioners, and of course, washers and dryers in every unit. And then we also have some public space. So you can see kind of the designs that we put into play here. Pretty efficient, but very attractive kitchens, family rooms. Our community space is well appointed in design. It's kind of our mantra here is in everything that we do is, yeah, we're building to accommodate an affordable population. However, we're designing, outfitting, architecturally and from a construction materials point of view, and the interior design point of view, like it's a market rate deal. We feel like everybody deserves the high level of finishes that a market rate use would use. So we spend the money in those opportunities to create a really nice living environment. And we found that over time, that we provide people with a really nice place to live and treat them respectfully. They treat the building respectfully, and everything really works well. It's kind of, that was the design and execution thesis behind this, as well as everything we do in the county. Go to the next slide. Okay, that was it. These other are kind of non-applicable case studies, but I think that's a summary of 10 years of effort in about 10 minutes. So thank you very much for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Steve. Really, it's amazing, amazing project, amazing scale and density, and really the type of project that's going to help us kind of achieve our affordable housing goals here in the region. So really appreciate you and SCG for making this possible and joining us on our virtual bus tour. So now we're going to head toward Arlington, in Ballston specifically, and happy to introduce the team from Central United Methodist Church, Pastor Sarah and Jean, who is the lay leader on the project, in addition to Ryan Nash from TrueGround Housing Partners, who are the developer. So we'll get your slides queued up, and excited to hear about this example of transit-oriented faith-based development.
Great. Thank you, Jill and Hannah, for inviting us to attend this Lunch and Learn session. And thanks to Pastor Sarah and Jean for being able to participate. I think Pastor Sarah and I are going to share this presentation a little bit. I'll start off just a little bit about TrueGround, if you want to go to the next slide. So TrueGround Housing Partners was originally the Arlington Partnership for Affordable Housing, founded in 1989. We currently own 2,800 apartments and have about another 2,000 units currently in the pipeline, with about a $1 billion portfolio valuation. Our main focus and mission with TrueGround Housing is 30 to 60% AMI, and we also portfolio-wide and with the specific property itself also have 10% permanent supportive housing units. And when I first started at TrueGround 8.5 years ago, back in 2017, it was exclusively in Arlington County. But later that year, our board of directors realized that while Arlington had a great dedication to affordable housing, it was still kind of limited, and we were able to get permission to expand beyond Arlington County. So we now currently operate in 5 different jurisdictions throughout the DMV. We of course operate in Arlington, as well as Fairfax County, Loudoun County, Montgomery County, Maryland, and then we'd recently just opened our first property in the District of Columbia earlier this year. With that, I'll hand it over to Pastor Sarah to give you just an overview of the project timeline.
Thank you, Ryan. Jill, I feel like you not only organized the groups from west to east, you also put us from the fastest project with modular building to one that had some financing challenges to our project, which you'll notice 2007 is the first date on our timeline. Jean Cross was here as the lay leader and was part of the church leadership who went for a prayer walk in our neighborhood. And we are located directly across from the Ballston metro station in Arlington, Virginia. And they noticed people sleeping literally outside the door. So they began an opportunity for folks to come in the fellowship hall for coffee and donuts on Friday mornings. This grew into a space where people felt welcome, and over time evolved into a Friday morning breakfast where folks would get a hot, healthy breakfast with protein and vegetables and a lunch to go. This ignited a passion in the congregation for helping to serve folks who don't have homes. And as part of the solution to helping folks, they realized that they could use their property to create new homes that did not exist. And so you can see that some of the journey began in 2007 with the building committee forming. In 2013, they were ready to really do some deeper work in what that might look like on this property. They sent out a request for information to get ideas from developers, and that helped get some clarity on what they did want to do and what they didn't. Because, of course, there was the opportunity to build condos and have the church in the very back corner, or there was an opportunity to do all affordable. So my predecessor retired in 2014, and I was appointed to the church to lead this project to completion. So we spent a year working on the finer points of our request for proposal from the developers that we were interested in partnering with. Then the summer of 2015, we as a congregation spent 90 days in prayer in a specific and focused way to support the due diligence of the building committee while they read through the responses to the proposal, while they did all of the interviews. And in 2015, we initially selected a different developer than TrueGround. We had a slightly different ownership model under that plan. We got approval for our site plan with Arlington County, which did require the church to take out a loan for $4.2 million as part of the fees for the architects and the legal fees and all of that involved in the site plan process. We were ready to apply for the 9% LIHTC funding in 2017. Unfortunately, we were unsuccessful. We rethought some of the financing model and applied again for the 9% LIHTC in 2018. And once again, we were not successful in getting that funding. And so we thanked our partner up until that point, but they felt like they had done all they could. And so we went back to the drawing board, literally, and made a few changes to the property. We were able to remove a second level of underground parking, which removed some of the excessive cost for the project. And thankfully, they were then named Arlington Partnership for Affordable Housing, now named TrueGround. They were really ready to step in and help us find a pathway to funding. So the church did need to raise some money and contribute $4 million to the balance sheet as a source so that we could find the funding to balance. But thankfully, APA figured out all of the rest of the financing that was needed. We were able to break ground with them in 2021. And as a church, we had our grand opening celebration last year on Easter on March 31st. We held the grand opening for Unity Homes at Ballston 2 weeks later. And the last piece of the puzzle is Kinhaven School, which is actually going to be opening next Tuesday. There was additional planning and permitting required for them. So we are thrilled that that is the last piece of the puzzle for our building. So yes, we can go to the next slide. So when we began our project, what did we want to do? We had a building that had been in existence since 1923, was not serving the current congregation or our mission program very well, was not serving Kinhaven as well as it could have. So our new space has space for the church to worship that's flexible. We have a space designed for what was our Friday breakfast program. It is now currently a Wednesday and Thursday cafe from 9 to 3, where all are welcome to come and to eat hot, healthy food. And we, as I said, are thrilled that Kinhaven is going to be opening next Tuesday. They are able to serve more children than our old site and also younger children. They are licensed for up to as young as 6 months old. Okay, we can go to the next slide. And this just gives you a sense of how our property here on Fairfax Drive in Arlington has evolved over time. So the initial sanctuary that was from the 1930s, then the expansion that included what was a gymnasium and an education wing in the 1950s, to the site that it looked like in 2015, which is what we completely tore down, dug underground for that parking, and then we now have an 8-story above ground building. So floors 1 and 2 have church and school space. Floors 3 through 8 are entirely the affordable housing units. And I'll pass it back to Ryan because he'll get a little more detailed about the housing unit mix.
Great. Thank you, Pastor Sarah. If you want to go to the next slide, give just a brief sort of a snapshot of what the project looks like. So total of 144 units, 108 1-bedroom, 24 2-bedroom, and 12 3-bedroom, with split AMI at 15 of them at 30% AMI, 60 at 50% AMI. and 69 at 60% AMI. Design-wise, as Pastor Sarah alluded to, there's one level of below-grade parking, and then the construction style is 3 levels steel and concrete, and 5 levels of wood framing for the top floors 3 through 8. All the residential units are floors 3 through 8. The first 2 levels are actually in many ways shared between the church and TrueGround Housing with amenity space for the residential side on levels 1 and 2, and then the church side also on levels 1 and 2 with all the residential units going above. We used Davis Construction was the general contractor on the project. And for financing purposes, we had 2 separate construction contracts, one for the construction of the residential space, and then a separate contract for the construction of the church space. Because we used 4% LIHTC financing, we couldn't use any of that financing to fund the church space. So Davis was able to, kind of split those costs to make it work. But it also having the same GC on both projects was extremely helpful. That way, we were able to basically do as a turnkey development. We were able to open the residential units and the church at the same time. If you want to go to the next slide. So it's just a little bit more. There's an image that we have going into the church side. I did mention we had the 4% LIHTC financing. We also had a certain amount of AHIF funding, the Affordable Housing Investment Fund, which is the sort of revolving loan that you can get from Arlington County. We did construction loans through Truist Bank, and then permanent financing through Virginia Housing. You want to go ahead and go to the next slide. So this is just a little bit a snapshot of the sources and uses. So we're able to secure in the AHIF funding about 19 million. The bulk of that, about 10 million of that was used as a one-time payment as part of the ground lease to Central United Methodist Church. And then the remaining for other project costs, we got a 36 million construction loan from Truist, as well as permanent financing from Virginia Housing. And then the where it says reach grant proceeds, that actually was a function of an Amazon donation to Virginia Housing. So with Amazon HQ2 coming to the region, one of the things that the local jurisdictions were requiring was that they would, help out affordable housing needs in the community. And this one opened at such a time that we were able to, capitalize on those funds. That was really helpful. But yeah, just some of the ins and outs of the construction. It was, very tricky. It's a 1 acre site directly, basically right next to and on top of the Ballston metro stop. So we had to have ECS third-party construction monitoring of the metro tunnels, and just, logistics of being at such a busy urban area had its own sets of challenges. I think that's about it. Go ahead and go to the next slide. I think that's okay. And this is just a little snapshot of who the people we worked with were. Of course, Central United Methodist Church, Kinhaven, Arlington County, Virginia Housing, Truist on the construction load side, and they're also our equity investor. Amazon, via Virginia Housing through those REACH grant. Davis Carter Scott was the architect. They actually worked with Central United Methodist Church on the early designs of the building, and then we continued working with them on the refined design. It had gone through, site plan approval in Arlington, which was the zoning requirements. So even at the earlier model, we weren't able to modify, the facade very much or the footprint. So DCS had to get very creative as far as, how we could fit additional units to make the project pencil out. Davis Construction, of course, the general contractor on both the church and the residential side. Davis Utility, our utility consultant. Bowler was our civil engineer, and then Veridiant. So this is Earthcraft Gold certified, and that is it. So I will hand it back to you, Jill and Hannah.
Thank you so much, Ryan, Pastor Sarah, and Jean. Really appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and we just have a few minutes. I'll do kind of some speed round questions and just probably they seem to break out by project. So we'll stay in Arlington with Unity Homes. And don't know, Ryan, or maybe the folks from Central United Methodist, do you know the mix of household types if it's older adults, families? Not sure if you know who's living there. It's not restricted. I know it's right. It's family housing, so open to all ages, if I remember correctly. Is that true?
That is
That's
correct.
correct. Yeah, it's affordable family. We do have, a certain amount of senior aged residents for sure, but it's different from some of our other, affordable senior properties that we have in Loudoun County and Fairfax.
Great. Okay, thanks. And then I guess probably for Jean, maybe what was happening in that time frame between 2007 and 2013 when you decided to move ahead with with the development plan?
There were some property issues. The biggest one was associated with an abandoned cemetery that was abandoned in 1923 when the original building was built. So we had some historic, or what people thought were some historical issues around that, and that cost us a good bit of money and about a year's worth of discussions with the community before we came to a resolution.
Great. Yep. Thank you. Thank you for that. And then I'll go ahead and go back to Fairfax and wondering, Steve, if you know of any mechanisms that connect the family building to the senior building to the students that are going on any of your resident services, or if that naturally happens on the affordable side with transportation and other service planning.
It definitely happens on the transportation side. We have one management company managing both buildings, so there's a lot of interaction. We've actually had people on the family side asking for keys and access to the senior building and vice versa because they have friends over there. Unfortunately, it's a whole different regime, so we can't do that. I do know that part of our goals that has not been implemented yet will be to get some interaction with the student housing building relative to students and tutoring services and things like that. So I think all that stuff is starting up. I don't know that it's actually ongoing yet, but we think there's a lot of opportunity there to have all those groups of people working together in various capacities.
Great, wonderful, thank you. And I'll just put in a plug for Prince William County asking for TrueGround, and I'm sure Steve for SCG too. Just developer plans to move into Prince William County. As you know, they just created and funded their first affordable housing trust fund. So we'll have some projects, I'm sure, coming through. So hope both of you are looking at Prince William too. Okay, we're going to move over to Loudoun and some questions for the Habitat team about the restrictive covenants for the Habitat homes. And I assume that's around affordability and other covenants. Amanda or Judy, if you want to take that one.
Yeah, absolutely. So for this property in particular, the affordability covenants that come into play are actually from the Virginia Statewide Community Land Trust. So our partner who's helping to keep this property affordable in perpetuity. So we've selected a resale model based on AMI. And so if any of our families choose to sell the properties at any point, which they absolutely can do as homeowners, there would be a resale formula used to determine the new sales price that would allow the family selling the home to gain some equity and some generational wealth, but also allow another affordable family to purchase that unit from them and have that same hand up as well. So it's really based on a resale formula structure for the AMI of Loudoun County.
Excellent, thank you. And for your Village at Clear Springs project, are the 12 homes that are proposed part of Loudoun's kind of affordable dwelling unit requirement, inclusionary zoning requirement, or have they been acquired separately by Habitat?
So we're pretty blessed that these 12 units are above and beyond the requirement for Loudoun County and what needs to be the affordable component of this neighborhood. There's about 180 units that will be rental units in this neighborhood, and that met the affordability covenants for this project. However, we partnered with the developer throughout the rezoning process, and as part of that, we made the pitch that homeownership should be included in this as well. And so the 12 lots that we are going to be developing are fully donated to Habitat from the developer and go above and beyond the affordability requirements.
That's great. Thank you. And then staying on that theme, I know there's a NIMBY conversation. My sense is everybody faces NIMBYs, whether you're building any type of housing. So I might just, put a pin in that. But I do want to get to any incentives that you might have received. You developed this in the town of Leesburg, which sits within Loudoun County. But were they able to give you any incentives for building the duplex there? Or do you expect any incentives from the county for Village of Clear Springs?
Yeah, good question. So we did not receive any fee waivers from the town of Leesburg or Loudoun County for this project. We didn't have to do any rezoning either, so that was super helpful. So we actually paid for all of our permit fees and everything like that associated with the project. However, both the town of Leesburg and Loudoun County government were extremely helpful throughout the permitting process. And anytime I had a question, I could pick up the phone, talk to somebody, and they kind of walked us through that whole project. The town of Leesburg also came back and became one of the donors to the project and donated the tree coverage that had to be provided on the lot. And Mayor Burke came out and shoveled in one of the trees. So we were extremely excited about the partnership there. So it was a non-traditional, I would say, partnership for these. However, looking forward to the future, we're really hoping to be able to partner with Loudoun County government through their new Attainable Housing Loan Program for the Village at Clear Springs. And we'll be working with their Affordable Housing Ombudsman through the permitting process as well. So we hope that our partnerships will continue for Clear Springs.
Wonderful. That's excellent. So thank you all so much for being here. Really appreciate it. I do want to thank again our presenters and our speakers. It's really hard to cram, put in an hour these three amazing projects that have a lot of examples of innovation, but challenges, the timing. I know all of our advocacy and hard work, I think, pays off when we see families in units in stable, affordable housing, but it is a challenge getting there. And just want to celebrate the successes when we can see beautiful quality construction being able to, have residents move in. So kudos to all of you. And the partnership is really amazing. It doesn't get done without intentional partnerships, I think, as all of you discussed. For Navaja, we will not be having a lunch and learn in September. We invite all of you to come to our 20th anniversary in-person celebration on September 30th at the National Landing Experience Center. We're having our Educate and Celebrate event. We're going to be talking about what's working nationally for housing policy, as well as what's working in the region. And you heard a couple of faith-based housing development will be discussed. So if you are interested in learning more about that, please attend, as well as Fairfax's PPEA process that Steve highlighted, working to use county-owned land to put it out for development, and really appreciated Steve's comments about some of the challenges associated with that as well. So grateful and hope you can join us if you're able. It is our fundraiser, and we'll also be celebrating a posthumous award for Congressman Jerry Conley, who was an amazing affordable housing advocate when he worked in his work at Fairfax County and, of course, at the federal level. And then we are also awarding recognizing our tenant advocacy partners, Bugada, New Virginia Majority, Tenants and Workers United, and Cornerstone's Opportunity Neighborhoods. These partners have really been leaning in on providing information on keeping our immigrant families safely housed and knowing their rights and protected during this time. So just a little plug for you to join us, and we'll be back with the Lunch and Learns in October. So thank you, Hannah, for the great support, and thanks again to our presenters. Bye-bye.